That's good. Thank you.
Coffee.
And there's, yes, so there is coffee. If anybody needs any coffee before we get started, I would say go ahead, grab some coffee. It's right over there. We will have a lunch brought here around 11:30ish, 11:15ish. Just some sandwiches from Potbellies. Those should be, we'll just set them up over there. You can eat as we just chat and finish off things. We will likely have most things finished up by 11:30, unless you do have a lot of questions and really engage in discussion on this, which I hope you do, because there's a lot of great questions to ask, and I feel like we got through the last session on my session on Tuesday. I was really able to help clarify a lot of things for our volunteers. So again, thank you all for being here. This is our DREAAM Summer Program training. We do our Kindergarten Jumpstart Program over the summer, and it is a program that takes place here in Champaign and over in Rantoul as well. Our goals today for our orientation, I want to help make sure that y'all are prepared for your first day, ready to go. We will get your scheduling and stuff set up, though that will happen shortly after this meeting. I will send out an email and you just respond with what hours you're hoping for. Unless you want to tell me here, I can write it down here as well. And then of course I want to just make sure that you're connected with one another and know each other pretty well. Being that many of you are from the same church, that is helpful. But it's just always good to know who our fellow volunteers are as we become part of the DREAAM team. All right, so for DREAAM today, we are doing this nice orientation. And this orientation has a number of different parts. We're going to start with a background of DREAAM for some of you who've worked with DREAAM before. This won't come as a shock to you. We're going to go through some important DREAAM staff, some of the volunteer roles for the summer. We're going to do interacting with Dreamers. We're going to do our volunteer rules. And then we're going to have a brief discussion on technology, the technological side of things. It won't go too in depth this summer. All the technology things, I'm pretty much controlling 100%. You just need to know that they exist pretty much. And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end of all of that. All right, so to begin with, for those of you who maybe haven't been with us before, what have you heard about DREAAM? What do you know about DREAAM so far?
I've heard it serves African-American boys.
Mm-hmm. Great.
That's
That's a big part of it. No, that's a big part of it. Anything else that people have heard?
I work in the schools,
Mm-hmm.
so I see them
Mm-hmm.
come into a big school. I did not know about the Jumpstart.
Yeah.
The younger children, it's wonderful.
Yep.
I can tell from 50 paces the child has been
in a Jumpstart program.
routine.
Yeah, it's important. Any other thoughts? All right, that's good. I mean, we've hit the nail on the head pretty well. I'll start with our change statement to kind of get to this. So we are driven to reach excellence in achievement and engagement and behavioral health among boys ages 5 through 24 years old. We are kind of working that number down to it's down to about 3 at this point. We work with very young kids. And honestly, on the other end, it goes up to 25, 26. We work with a lot of folks who are getting out of different prison situations and wanting to finish off GED and get towards their maybe even go to college, go to a trade school. So on both ends, we work with a lot of folks, especially throughout all of it, we're very focused on Black boy joy, as Tracy would say, and Black boy excellence. We really want to make sure we are really helping and walking along these Black boys and young men as they achieve and do great things in the future. In our younger classes, we have now a mix of boys and girls, and we will probably have boys and girls mixed throughout older and older every year because we're kind of doing cohorts now of gals as part of DREAM. And we also are doing a mix of ethnicities and races as a part of this as well. So we have a whole host of different kids, especially in our younger grades, but we do really want to make sure that we are emphasizing the excellence of our Black boys and young men. So our mission is threefold. We're here to reach, and this is all part of reach. We reach out to community organizations such as churches, nonprofits, retirees, school folks from Uni High and the University of Illinois and anywhere else. And we find volunteers and we find people to just kind of come along, our students, and be mentors, be role models, be volunteers, be helpers with them, because we understand that a lot of the problems that many of our kids are facing in our community, there's not just one single answer that's going to fix it. What's going to fix these problems is creating beloved community, creating interconnectedness between our students and the Champaign community. So we're very focused on reaching out and bringing people into the DREAM team. We also, of course, are very focused on teaching. We want to make sure that while our dreamers are at our programs, that they are getting education on, of course, the STEM sorts of fields, but also on social fields as well, such as adaptability, self-regulation, and many of those areas. We're really here to try and make sure that our boys are able to kind of find friendship amongst one another instead of continuing certain toxic masculinities that we can see in all young men. And then finally, we're here to empower. We don't want to come in and tell these boys, these young men, this is how your life's going to go. We want them to feel like, hey, I'm figuring out what I want to do with my life, and I'm going to go do this thing. So we want to give them the tools to figure out what is it they want to do, and then go do that thing. So we're working really hard on that empowerment piece as they go back out into the community. With those three areas, we really, we wrap them all together and work as such a really just such an interconnected group. It's almost more like a family at DREAM because you really get to know the kids and their families quite well. And then our goals within that. So thinking deeper into our goals, we're really working to increase literacy and math skills in the Kindergarten Jumpstart Program. That looks a lot like just beginning those areas of understanding. We're here to strengthen friendship and social skills. During COVID especially, we found that to be almost probably more important than even the academic side of things, because they're just, our kids are not getting to engage with each other outside of these sorts of areas as much. And so it's really important that we help them with this. And then, of course, to increase leadership skills. We want these kids to go back into the community and be able to be leaders in their different areas and different parts of the community. So there are two major programs that I want to make volunteers aware of this summer. To be fair, DREAM actually has about 8 to 9 programs going this summer, and some of them, one of ours in Rantoul has over 400 kids that are involved in it, but we have that fully staffed. So these are the two main ones, though, that I want volunteers to keep in mind. The first one, of course, is Kindergarten Jumpstart Program. We have that operating in Champaign starting on July 11th, and then it started in Rantoul this last Tuesday. And it is it's a 4-week program, and that's what y'all will be helping us with going forward. However, I also want to draw your attention to Hope for the Future, because Hope for the Future is a major initiative of DREAM currently that we are really not only reaching out to bring people in to help our kids with their learning and understanding, but Hope for the Future is DREAM going out into the community, engaging with families and trying to provide wraparound programs, trying to provide assistance with like social workers and culturally relevant interventions for gang prevention, family development, and all these different areas. So Hope for the Future is kind of our attempt to get a handle on the gun violence that's been going through this community. And it's really been an amazing rollout that we've had for it so far. We hope to have about 300 people, 300 families, I should say, involved with this. And we're very close to that 300 family mark. And we are doing these different programs I mean, we're going to do some of the programs for parents here at Faith. We're going to do some at First United Methodist. We've got some coming up at Emmanuel in downtown as well. And there are just lots of really cool programs coming out of that that will need volunteer help and assistance as time goes on. But for these early days, we're just kind of wanting people to know that it's happening so that you can follow along with DREAM as it develops. This is a new program to this year, and we'll just keep expanding it as we go along. You can follow that, of course, on our website or on Facebook, but it's a really cool program that's very focused on just engaging everybody and really building vital communities. So why be a DREAM volunteer? As we get into this, I just want to think through, I mean, we have reasons to volunteer in anything, but why be a DREAM volunteer? One of the things that I always hear from my students, especially during the school year, and that I hear from more and more people, is that DREAM volunteers really do get to be role models for our kids, because in certain volunteer roles, you can end up being very behind the scenes, and very much just working to make sure the program is going all right. But especially as we're coming out of COVID, we're hopefully coming out of COVID, and as we are engaging more and more with these children, you just get such a chance to really work one-on-one, to work closely with many of these kids. And it's a really exciting thing, and it's good to remember that we are here at DREAM as role models for these students. We're here to walk with them, but to also be these characters that they look up towards, especially our little kindergartners, because they're so small. All right, strength-based education. So at DREAM, we believe in strength-based education, and this is an important thing that I will be touching on a number of times during our talk today. But strength-based education is very much, it's the belief, of course, that every child has unique strengths, skills, and abilities, and we want to really foster those in them through collaboration and affirmation, not through refining through fire, not through discipline, not through being a disciplinarian. We really want to be there to affirm, to uplift, and to say, hey, I really noticed that you were doing this great, and I want to bring that out in you. This is a really big a really big movement that we're trying to get through our volunteers, especially because we'll get a bit to it in some future slides, but it's just really important that we remember we're here to engage in as positive a way as possible with our kids, keep things as affirmational and collaborative as possible. SEL and evidence-based practices, these are some of the areas we'll be getting into. SEL is social and emotional learning, and then evidence-based practices goes into trauma care, and we are working on actually developing a curriculum for our volunteers so that they know how to engage in these areas, social and emotional learning and evidence-based care. And we are going to, we will have trainings on that in the future. I have a couple doctoral students working on that from the U of I right now, and they got me some really nice flyers this morning. So we will work further through that as time goes on here. But suffice it to say, I just wanted to let you know that there are more trainings that will be available as this time goes on, and they will be very helpful during your time at DREAM. All right, so DREAM expectations. I just want to go through this real quick. Our dreamers are all told these expectations that are behind me when they sign on to be dreamers at our program. So they're told dreamers are leaders, are respectful, work hard, use appropriate words, and are positive brothers. They're told these things when they sign on. Now, for our Kindergarten Jumpstart Program, obviously, for these kids, they are just beginning this, and they probably don't know many of these things. But I think they're really important phrases to go ahead and start using with our boys, to go ahead and start using with our kids, to remind them of why they are here at DREAM, or to start teaching them why they're here at DREAM, because the kids will not always follow these. And it's just really important to remember these. So while we are uplifting, while we're being affirmational, we do want to remind and hold accountable our students to these expectations. And these expectations should be found with any of our teachers that we will have at our programming. So you will always have a reminder of this when you are at our programming. All right, for anybody for volunteering this summer, what are your expectations for volunteering with DREAM this summer? Do you have any expectations? Is there something you're really hoping to achieve with us this summer? something you'd really like to do with us this summer?
I want to make these children comfortable for what's coming next year.
Very good. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Other thoughts?
I want to do reading, bringing the characters to life for them.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Those are great expectations and great statements to set at the beginning of this, because I think it's just really powerful to think through what we also want to get from the program that we are joining into. And I think that those are two wonderful things to say. We're going to switch from kind of some dream background things now to talking about some important dream folks. You will probably see these folks while you're volunteering with us here at Faith, because our program here in Champaign is at Faith, so you'll be right back here for when we get going. But this is Mr. Tracy Dace. He is he's the founder of DREAAM. He's the director of Champaign programming, and has done this now. Well, as of like, I think it's July 5th or 6th, DREAAM will be 7 years old. And so we're approaching year 7, and Tracy started this as a program of about four young boys, himself and another teacher. And that was 7 years ago. And I mean, as I said earlier, we're now in 2 cities. We've got over 400 kids in Rantoul. We've reached over 600 here in Champaign, and we keep growing every single year. Last year we had between our 2 sites, Uniplace and First Presbyterian, we had over 150 kids for our school year programming. Going into the future, it will be over 200 between the 2 places. So we just keep growing and growing, and Tracy's really led us along that way. He was a doctoral student in education at the University of Illinois, and realized a lot of the things that he was learning and going through the theories of were things that were happening in the Champaign-Urbana community, especially with the Black community, and that there were interventions that were needed immediately. And so he left that program and just started DREAAM, and has been doing it ever since. He's one of the busiest people I know, and he does amazing works. So if you ever see Tracy walking around, holler at him, say hi. He loves to chat with our volunteers and get to know everybody who's a part of the DREAAM team. This is Mr. Sam Hall. You probably won't see Sam as much, but he might swing around. Sam is our director of Rantoul programming. He's really started that program in a strong direction by starting this parent mentorship program, where he brings parents of the kids into the schools, and they get to work with their kids and with others' kids, and really build community there while they're also learning professional skills. And they get paid for their time doing these sorts of things. And it's a really cool program. It's in every single Rantoul school system at this point. And they keep growing that program as well, bringing in more and more parents as part of it. So he's really helped us to set the standard in Rantoul of excellence. And if you ever see him around, he's a lot of fun to chat with too. He's our connection for First United Methodist in Rantoul, so he gets us into the Methodist churches as well. All right, this is Latondra. Latondra will not be as important for the summer, but I still think it's important for you all to know Latondra, because Latondra she's our site coordinator for Uniplace Christian Church, and she's the one who gets to know pretty much, I would say she probably knows most of the families and kids way more than most of our employees. She's been here for much longer than anybody else. She joined Mr. Tracy very early on in this. And if you ever do see her around, just say hi and get to know her a bit, because she has such a wealth of information about our community and about DREAAM itself, and is just a great human being. And then this is Mr. Andreas. He's over at First Presbyterian. You, though, might see him here because he does come around to our different programs to do, like he does a lot of fun basketball programming. He's helped us with some soccer programming. He's done a lot of just fun events. So I know that they're considering having him come over here to use the gym a couple times while you're here with the Kindergarten Jumpstart Program. And there could be some really fun events that you might get to see Mr. Andreas around at. awesome guy. And again, chat him up when you see him. All right, so let's get into some volunteer roles for the program that you're actually here for. So this is for our Kindergarten Jumpstart Program. We've got 4 different roles: morning assistance, classroom prep, literacy support and snack, math support, lunch, and bus duty. These ones will each be a little more defined than they were last year for my folks who did this last year, because now that we don't have to dodge around COVID to quite the same level, we have things planned out a little more tightly. So to begin with, morning assistance, that's from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. You come in before the kids actually get there, and you help set up the breakfast area, which I believe here at Faith UMC, we're going to have the kids come in here for their breakfast, and have things served up here. And we will have a professional cook and kitchen manager already who has created the breakfast and everything for them. You'll just sit at the tables, let kids come in, and hang out with them pretty much. We'll have little games for them. You'll get to play some fun games and just have some fun conversations to get them going in the morning. The morning assistance group is very, very important, because this is kind of, especially in the first week, a lot of these kids are pretty scared to be doing this sort of thing. So this is kind of a great way to be that welcoming presence that brings them into the space. So it's always really important that we have that we're just ready to go for morning assistance. I know for me, 7:30 used to be pretty early. It's not anymore, but it used to be that I would have been pretty grumpy at that time. So yeah, you just play games with the kids, and then you clean up pretty much once they start heading to classrooms down the hallway there. Classroom prep. This year, there will actually be a good classroom prep setup where we will have people just working with our teachers on making sure they've got everything they need, making sure that they have all their notes ready for their day about what they're going to go over, and just helping to make sure that everything is ready for the kids to come in. Classroom prep is one that you will not be interacting as much with the kids. There will, of course, probably be some times where you'll come in and join the kids at breakfast and, sit with them for a bit, maybe play some games and help clean up. But for the most part, you should be with Sarita, who was here last Sunday. You'll be mostly helping her and her teachers prepare for the day. So yeah, this one is more of a behind the scenes role. But it's a really fun role, and you get to really know DREAAM's staff through this one, which I think is really cool. Literacy support and snack. So for lit support and snack, this one goes from 8:15 to 10:15. So this is our first 2-hour shift. Classroom prep is 8 to 9, so that's only 1 hour. This one's 2 hours. And for lit support and snack, you are helping the teachers with what they plan for their literacy education for the day. You're helping keep kids involved in the lessons, and you're just really taking time to be present in the classroom pretty much. This is a really important time to help them understand what classes will look like, especially again in those early weeks. This will be their first actual class session. So it will be important to kind of help them see this is what academic life is like. We will break for a snack. We try to keep each of our moments with the kids to manageable chunks so that we are working with their attention spans instead of against them. Then we have math support, lunch, and bus duty. The math support, again, same as literacy support. You'll help the teachers with the math programming they've developed for the day. Our professional teachers are great at this. They will have an excellent program designed for you. Then you will actually come out here and help with lunch. Last year, we just did bagged lunches and sent them home with those lunches. This time, we are legitimately going to have a lunch here with the kids. So if you're doing this kind of like the early group having breakfast, you will sit with the kids, enjoy lunch, be able to help them unwind at the end of the day. And then bus duty will just help them get out of here, which actually I think they'll be exiting through that door, because I think we're going to use that door most of the time to get in and out of the place. So lunch will be in here. Are you here for DREAAM? Are you here for DREAAM? For the DREAAM training program. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'm recording it so I can get you everything with time. But and your name is? Okay, thank you.
Maryland, Fred. That's what I told him the other night in New York. Maryland.
Thanks, Marilyn. All right.
Come up here so I can hear you.
Yeah, definitely. Come on in, have a seat. All right, so these are our main duties of the day. I can go back over those times with you. The last duty, of course, ends around, it's from 10 to 12. And so it ends around noon. You likely won't have to stay much beyond noon. We're going to try and have it so that staff will take care of the cleaning and stuff after that point. So it'll just pretty much cut off right at noon. So to continue forward with the training, let's think a little bit about how we actually should interact with dreamers. We've gone through some of these different roles, but let's actually look at how we could interact with dreamers. And this is going to be some scenarios that I'm going to ask you about. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. There are some wrong answers, but that's okay. I want to hear them anyway because you're not going to be judged for them. All right, so a student asks you if they can use the restroom. What should you do? Very good. Yep, that's very good. Any other thoughts on that?
Go with them.
That's good. That's good. Yep, excellent. All right, perfect. I think those are all great thoughts, and those are all correct actually. So for this one, we want to use context clues. The first context clue, and I think you always pull from, is the teacher. Check on the teacher. For our older students, often you need to check with the teacher because it could be that this kid has used the bathroom 4 or 5 times and is just doing that to get out of doing certain activities. For our younger kids, it might be a different reason, but you want to make sure to check with the teacher first. Here at Faith UMC, I believe there are bathrooms in each of the little classrooms that we're going to be using, if what Sarita said was correct. So you won't have to accompany them into the hallway for the most part. However, if we are here at lunch or at breakfast, you will need to accompany them to the bathroom. But we did get into this a little bit because these are young kiddos. And so if they need extra help, like going to the bathroom, cleaning, any of that, that's not you, okay? That's not you, that's staff, that's on staff. And that's why we need to ask the teacher first, because we need to get teachers' permission and assistance in doing this with these little kids. And then we can be of assistance during that time, accompanying the kids if they don't need extra help, or just making sure that there are a number of people present. But the teachers, they will take care of any cleaning, any need like that. So just keep that in mind with our kids. Yeah, John.
So if you're, for instance, you're doing morning prep.
Yeah.
And there's got to be like a site supervisor.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So correct. Yeah, you would ask Sarita, and if Sarita couldn't go with you at that point, what Sarita would do is have you and probably one of the academic, we've got some staff here that are just like junior academic coaches, who are trained in this as well. She will probably send you and like an academic coach to accompany the child to the bathroom. The academic coach will take care of everything while you're there as well, just because we shouldn't have adults alone with any young children. And then you'll come back to here. But for the most part, if Sarita can, she'll take care of it with a staff member. So yeah, you just need to, for Kindergarten Jumpstart Program, just be available if you need to go with them. And remember that kids should not be unaccompanied anywhere. So if you do see a kid like heading towards the bathroom unaccompanied, make sure that people are aware of what's going on. So always ask the teacher, and always be just thinking about, okay, where are we and where's the nearest bathroom, pretty much. Yeah.
Will there be signage up?
Signage. Yeah. But there are some that don't. We should put some signage up. I know that I know we could definitely do that. Yeah. We'll put signage up to point people in the right directions for sure. For sure. Thankfully when they're in the rooms, it's just in the room. But yeah, out here, it's good to know. Any questions, any other thoughts with bathroom and kids? Yeah. Alex.
Children need to be potty trained before they're enrolled.
So we ask that to happen, yes. That doesn't mean it does happen. That's part of that's why I make a point to say you don't need to worry. If there's cleaning that needs to be done in that level, staff will take care of that. Staff will take care of that.
They bring phones then?
They are, again, if not trained, they are asked to, but it's unlikely, it doesn't always happen. So again, for you, that will be something that if you see happen or if you experience, you just make staff aware of, and staff will make sure that the situation is taken care of. Yeah.
Could there be a source? I'm thinking of the social workers.
Mhm.
Wherever there's a kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And usually those things are well stocked. Might we have some
It-
backup supplies here?
That is a good question. I do know we are planning, since we're doing Hope for the Future now, we've got a lot more social worker assistants. And I do know we are planning to have certain things stocked. So I will check with Sarita to see if that's one of the things that could be stocked, is some extra changes, just in case. Yeah.
Kids are
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So I'll double check on that. I know we have received supplies of that before, and we've used them at other programs recently. So I can definitely check on that for you. For sure.
Is there a nursery where there might be extra clothes or anything? Does anyone know? Well, there's a nursery down the
Yeah.
hall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it's stocked with.
Yeah.
I don't remember the need for extra clothes.
Yeah.
Amongst any other things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think that our staff does come prepared with certain extra things. But I would need to double check that. So that gives me something to think about for asking staff. Any other thoughts before we move to the next scenario? All right. Perfect. Okay, so a student is disrupting class with yelling and running around. What should you do?
Head for home.
And I'm out. Mm, I like that. Yep. I like that too. Yeah, great.
Usually when a child is running around, it's hard to redirect,
It is. Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
You have an assistant overall, you mentioned her name, I think. Seem that getting her involved or get involved as quickly as possible.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, perfect. So, oh, were you going to say something, Nancy?
Well, I was just thinking like last summer.
Yeah.
with 3 levels.
Yeah.
We had the teacher.
Yes.
the main teacher, Then we had the support of the college kids.
Yep.
I'm not sure their education. maybe
Yes. Yeah.
they're working in the
Still
classroom
working. Yeah.
and here.
Yep.
It seemed like if something like that happened, went first teacher, second to the college.
Yep. Very. Yeah, the junior academic coaches. Yep. That's very well said from both there. So yeah, the answer in this is to support staff pretty much. It's not up to us it's never up to us to remove the child from the room. It can be up to us to make sure just that they're not going to hurt themselves, but we do want to just make sure that staff is aware of the situation. Typically in this situation, staff is aware because the kid is running around. But sometimes they're very busy with something else. So just making sure that you are handling it in a calm way. I would say in this case, you just need to keep making the teacher aware of these things. We'll get a bit into why that is in a bit, goes kind of into trauma-based care sorts of things. But regardless, this behavior of running around disrupting class, we have 3 classifications of behavior at DREAAM. That's a major behavior because it stops other learners from learning. It stops kids from engaging in class. And major behaviors always need to be handled by the teacher, by some sort of staff. And they will hopefully handle it in a very, taking the child aside with a nice conversation, trying to figure out where this energy is coming from. And you can be a support in that conversation, but it shouldn't be you who takes the child aside. We don't have that relationship with the kids. We're only there, maybe once or twice in a week. And so we don't have that same relationship with the kids that the staff does. Hello. Are you here for DREAAM? Oh, gotcha. Oh, interesting. Well, welcome. I'm recording it, so I can send you the first part no matter what. Thanks for coming. And your name is? Libby Morley. Thank you for being here. All right. So that's oh, yes, John.
Just one last.
Yeah.
I would presume that under no circumstances would a volunteer physically grab a child.
You shouldn't physically grab the child. Yeah. Again, staff might put a steadying hand or do something like that, but again, with us not having that relationship with the child, we shouldn't do the physical grab. We can be a calming presence that's watching, making sure they're not doing any harm, trying to redirect. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the staff member is the one who's engaging. You can touch them. We'll get to that actually in a bit, but not ever like an aggressive like grab. Nothing like that to stop them. Our teachers, yes, not us, not volunteers. And we'll get more into that in just a bit. So that's a major behavior. Minor behaviors are just when a student's not paying attention, but it's not disrupting others. And then I want to touch on aggressive behaviors real quick. Aggressive behaviors are, of course, if a student is being aggressive towards, it could be towards you, it could be towards fellow classmates. And especially in the Kindergarten Jumpstart Program, I want you to always be watching for kids being aggressive towards one another, especially because that's a big thing that we work on at DREAAM is building brotherhood, building friendships between our kids. So even if that aggression isn't coming your way, but you see two kids that are being aggressive, let our teachers know, let our staff know. They will have a good conversation with them. At UniPlace, we have these all the time. They pull them aside and just sit down together and have a lovely chat with one of our coordinators. And it really does a lot for the kids. We've had a lot of really brilliant friendships actually begin that way when they realize that, oh, maybe we don't need to be aggressive towards one another during this time. So if you see any aggressions between children, let staff know, and they'll take care of it from there. So volunteers at DREAAM are not here to be disciplinarians. We're not here to be disciplinarians at all. We are here to hold kids accountable to learning, and we hold them accountable by making sure staff know what's going on, and by just being a resource to staff, by following staff directives for what's needed with the kids. Any other thoughts on this sort of major behavior? Anything else you want to have clarified? Yeah.
What's the staff-student ratio?
So it depends. For early weeks, it'll be high on the staff side and volunteer side. It can honestly get to for mass support in the early weeks, it can be one-on-one with my volunteers and a student. But as the weeks go on and more kids start coming in, it can get to like Kindergarten Jumpstart usually gets to about 3 to 5 per volunteer and then you have like 3 junior achievement coaches in each classroom as well, but there should always be staff available to do something to help out around you. Yeah, good question. Other thoughts? All right. Oh. On aggressive behavior.
No, may I share something that happened last year for me?
Yeah, please do.
Special, but
yeah, please do.
Larry and I would still be in the classroom and we help the volunteers help the teachers prepare for the day. But at about time they came into the classroom, I had work to, we just rotated around the room and help with that. And then they had an opening. And that was kind of neat, you know, the teacher had that and the kids were on the floor. Well, I always sat on the floor with the kids. And one of the little boys
Mhm.
would come right up to me and all of a sudden he put himself on my lap. He grabbed, no, lovingly, one arm put around him and the other arm. Heaven for me. But, and I asked the teacher the first time that happened and said, is this all right with you? And she said, because the child initiated it, but I want to hear it from you. Because the child initiated it, it was okay. And every day, I think that probably happened on the, well, fairly early, because there were several times that he would just climb on my lap.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. Sarita and I have chatted a little bit about that sort of thing. And we would say, we would be inclined to say no, because we are trying to train them to how behavior is in like a classroom setting for a kindergarten or something of that nature. And you can't necessarily do that with your teacher in kindergarten. So it's that's a redirection sort of thing where it's, for instance, like if later in this I talk about how instead of like thinking about a full front hug, it's like redirecting to a side hug, or saying, hey, can you ask my permission before you jump up on my lap? Can you talk to me that you want to jump onto my lap? Ask me for permission first, because that's a good bodily autonomy lesson there as well. So we would say probably no sitting on laps. However, if they've sat next to you, you could say, and then we're starting to do that, you could say, hey, how about we hold hands? You know, how about we, or just like you could have them put an arm around you, or, you know, something like that. But just some sort of separation between the child. Yeah, is how we're trying to go. Yeah. What to do. So I would say in that sort of a situation, definitely it's a great time to begin teaching about bodily autonomy and asking permission before they do something. It's also a great time where you can just be like, hey, you know, you can't actually do this, but you can, you know, hold my hand. You can stand next to me. You can sit next to me. You can be as close as you want. You just can't be on my lap. And that, of course, will depend on how you're feeling about it in the situation. So we would discourage that, but we would encourage you to find, you know, to use that as a learning opportunity for the kid. Yeah, and you don't have to say no to any. That's part of that. You can have physical contact with the kid. Any other questions related to that or related to this sort of scenario? All right, perfect.
You know,
Oh,
may I say
yeah,
something?
go for it.
What I've observed and learned over the years is you never know who you're talking to that day. And that child may have had trauma early in the morning. And maybe when he comes in, he's fine, and then something triggers a thought, and suddenly he's not so fine, and he does the whole behavior.
Yeah.
So you have to really who you're talking to, and it's really a challenge.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely can be. But it's good to remain open to the fact that might need to happen, or you might need to hold the hand. Yeah, definitely. All right, next question. So a student is not paying attention to you or staff as you try to read with them or do math with them. What should you do in that case? So they're just not engaging. That can definitely help. Other thoughts?
Maybe not give them any
Mm.
what they're doing to try to get them to say something.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could be.
I would say something to the kid, asking, you know, why isn't he interested, or what, you know, what can I do for you to help you want to pay attention?
Yeah.
I remember this goes back to years ago when I did Sunday school.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Other thoughts?
Conversing with students.
a momentary break.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
Right, right. I think that's great. I think that's great. Yeah, so and sorry it's so small. I've switched it from PowerPoint to Google Slides, and for some reason decided it meant that the letters need to be this big. So I'll just read it for you. But work on redirections, work on that sort of if you're seeing energy in the kid, but the energy isn't going towards what you're working on, maybe figure out where that energy is going by talking with them, by having that conversation, and then work that sort of thing into what you're trying to do with the kid that day. That's a skill that a lot of our teachers have really gotten to develop, is that sort of idea of just like, okay, kid is really not thinking in this realm right now, but is thinking here. But I could use this to connect into like their reading for the day, as long as I'm thinking that way. In these sorts of situations, definitely converse with the kid. Make sure that they are make sure you know where they're at. Make sure you know where their head's at that time. And if you are having troubles reaching the kid, getting them into what you're working on, do know that our teachers, our staff, they know these kids a lot better than we do. Many of them have known these kids since birth, and they might have a way to help you connect into that child as well. So you can ask them as well, hey, I'm really not getting through to this one. What do you know about them that maybe I can talk to them about? Our staff should know these different things and should be able to share that with you. So redirections and conversation are kind of the big thing, I would say. Really just take time to figure out where their head is at. Yeah. And that's an example of just a minor behavior. And minor behaviors, you don't need to get the teacher involved unless you do want that sort of like them to help you figure out how to solve the problem. But in a minor behavior, it's not like you're going to grab their arm and be like, focus. We're not going to do that. But we are going to spend time talking with them to see if we can't get them to think through what they're working on.
Could you scold them and ask, pardon me, could you scold them and see why they're, ask them why they're not interested, or?
You can remind them of those, you weren't here for the earlier part. You can remind them that they're here to work, they're here to study, they're here to engage. But you want to make sure to keep things as affirmational and as possible. So just remind them why they're here, hold them accountable to that. And then if that's really not working, you can get like a teacher involved, and a teacher has a little more leeway to be more disciplinary with them, because again, they have that relationship, though again, they will try to do it through affirmations and stuff as well. Yeah. Any other questions about just minor behaviors, kid not paying attention? For redirections, one thing I hear from a lot of my volunteers is that, because with each kid, you will learn their different personalities. You'll learn a lot about them, and you'll start figuring out what they're interested in, what they're not interested in, and where those access points to the learning are. And so it just takes some time. Honestly, I would say if you're ever nervous about just not getting through to one of the children, just keep giving it some time. Ask the teachers, and you'll get there. Each of these kids are very willing to connect after a certain point. Yeah. Yes.
Simply changing.
Right. Right. Yep.
Last summer was, I had to work with a little girl who was constantly diverting attention. So a game we played was, I let her be the teacher.
Yeah.
And she was to teach me.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, I directed that on around. What I wanted her to teach me, but,
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
But it's gotta be quick.
Yes. Yeah. you have to move with the energy. You have to move where the energy's moving. And that's all, again, I feel like that's something you learn more and more as you actually engage with the kids more and more. So yeah, just move with the energy. And that's a really good clarification, since these are little kids, that moves a lot. That moves a lot. So just be willing to move along with them as they go along. It's a lot about being flexible. Oh, and that's just the part where I was saying, you know, if you don't know what to do, reach out to teachers. They can help you with that. All right. Now, this one's kind of similar to what you said, but in this case, so a kindergartner is trying to climb on you and you don't want that. What should you do? Bless you. Any thoughts? So in a way.
Very impressive.
Mhm.
Or just what you described.
Mhm.
Seems to be probably.
Mhm.
So the first step would be to see why it's happening.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Figuring out why that's happening. Any other thoughts on this one?
Well, redirection takes, no, this.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely going to help. Yeah, great. Yeah, so in this case, yeah, we want to remain calm throughout it all and kindly assert our authority, because again, we are here to be role models, we're here to be teachers, we are trying to prepare these kids for their first day at kindergarten and the separation of teacher and kid in a kind way. But first, you know, take some time to breathe and calm things down. We don't want to chuck the child across the room. We don't want to yell, because that's going to cause just way more problems. We need to just always remember overreacting is going to be an issue. And then we need to find a redirection, find something that we can turn that energy towards, go with the energy. So, for instance, like this last spring, I had a student who was working with our kindergartners, and the kindergartners were just all over him that day. And he was like, I don't know what to do. And so the teacher was like, all right, we're going to go outside and just run in some circles. So they went outside, ran in circles. And sure enough, after that, the kids were just, they had a lot of energy they needed to get out, and they were trying to communicate that through trying to crawl all over our volunteers. So just remember that, you know, there are ways to redirect to get the energy out elsewhere. And it's also a great time, as we said earlier, to teach a little bit about bodily autonomy and asking before we do something. If one of the kindergartners keeps trying to crawl you, just remember you can get down on their level and say, you know, hey, you know, you need to ask me before you do these things. That does really work. I've done that a couple times with a couple of the kindergartners, and a couple of our teachers will do that too. And that it gains some respect. Then maybe they will say, can I hold your hand? And then you can do the hand hold. So just take some time to be calm and figure out what's appropriate for that situation. Unfortunately, it's not something I can completely instruct you on outside of it actually happening. So just be present to the situation itself. Any other thoughts about unwanted physical contact from any of the kids or anything like that? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Right. Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of like some of our teachers these days have those like little like boards that are like, you know, do you want a high five this morning or a hug or, you know, that sort of thing. And the kid chooses, but they have to then do that sort of thing. So yeah, it's good if you give the choices for sure. I like that. All right. This is our last scenario. So a student is doing really well on homework for Kindergarten Jumpstart Program. They're paying attention, they're engaged. What should you do when they're being very attentive and doing really well? Yeah, I like that. Notice. Praise. Yep. Mm-hmm. 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 Get excited. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's honestly perfect. So yeah, take some time to affirm the kids. Take some time to really celebrate even the little victories. If there's a kid who has really been struggling all week, but then one has just one really great couple of minutes, take some time to affirm that. I think this one is honestly our most important role as volunteers, because we are really here in a space that what we can affirm. We can say, hey, I noticed you were doing this, and I'm so proud of you for doing that, or you must be so proud that you did this and this. It's a really powerful thing. DREAM works with a lot of kids. I know, for instance, in our third grade class, there were 4 of them in this last year that were being considered being removed from their families by child services, because of bad behavior in school and at home and in different things. And because we got them into DREAM and really just started to just emphasize, hey, we've noticed this and this, and you're doing this so well, and just really start building them up. By this last the end of this last year, I know that all of them like are no longer considered like troubled children by these social workers, and that many of them have figured out areas that they really love in school, and they will come right up to you and talk to you about it because they've had that affirmed again and again, that they're really good at that. And our kids love hearing that. They love realizing that, wow, I am good at this, aren't I? So this is a real power that we have as role models and as volunteers here, is to affirm them, notice them, and be excited for them. And I also put up there, like, if you're working on an art project with them that day and you had a really fun time, you can give them that art project as a little reward. You can find appropriate little rewards to give to the kids as well on certain days. And that's lovely as well. That really just affirms that's something they can keep and remember you by. So just do take that time to really affirm them. Were you gonna say something? Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, be thinking about the behavior. Be thinking about the deeper things there. Yeah, that's really good. But yeah, take that time to affirm and to praise. I think this is honestly the most important part of what we are doing here. Because especially I know like some days we won't feel like affirming, because sometimes kids can ooh, but we still need to think about where can I put my praise, where can I say, hey, you're doing a great job today. All right, so now we'll just dig into some volunteer rules to think through as you begin your time with us. So our first rules are pretty easy. Be on time. That just kind of makes sense. We have the Kindergarten Jumpstart program set up so that each shift overlaps with one another. So you don't need to necessarily be early to your shift, but do be on time as much as possible. That helps make sure we can get you set up and ready to go at the appropriate time and don't have to use that extra time for that. Be ready to interact. This is one I have to go over a lot with my fraternity and sorority volunteers who come as a group and just clump and stick together. We're not here to just stick together. We're here to interact with the kids. So just be ready to interact with the children, and to be and with our staff too. Be ready to just be what our staff need you to be for that day. Be positive and respectful, no matter what has happened before in the day, no matter what's coming later in the day. Let's try to always have that idea of positivity and respectfulness within ourselves, hopefully to mirror towards the children, so that they can kind of take that from us. So just always try to come in with positivity and respect. Be confidential. We are in situations where we will, hear things from the kids. We'll hear stories from the kids. We don't want to be sharing those on Facebook. We don't want to be texting our friends about that. We don't want to be communicating these in inappropriate ways. We just want to make sure that we are confidential about anything we might hear. There is one exception to that, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. And then be proactive. One of the big things we're really working on, and one of the reasons why I've built in scenarios and why we will have more trainings available to you as this summer goes on, is that we want to make sure that volunteers are helping our staff and not just another group that our staff have to monitor. So think about every day when you come in, how can I be proactive? And I would really recommend, like, first couple of days that you come in, just take some time to see what happens around you. focus on what's working well, what's going well, and then think about, okay, could I maybe do that so that staff member doesn't have to do that? Ask Sarita about it, and sure enough, you might be able to take that over from her. So just be aware of what's going on around you and think about ways you could be proactive to help make the day flow even more easily. All right, cell phones. No cell phones while we're with the kids. I'm not going to collect them or anything. Teachers aren't going to collect them, but we just ask that if you're around the kids, no cell phone use. Of course, if you've got like you're waiting on an important call or you really need to respond to a text because that's like really, really important, something's happening, you can do that. Just let the teachers know that it's a day when that might need to happen. And if you're like heading to like if you're going towards the bathroom and not engaging with the kids at all, you can, that's obviously fine too. So no cell phones though, if you're in any space where you might be engaging with the kids. Photos, this is an important one. No photos of any of the kids or the staff, and especially no photos shared. If you do share photos without our permission, you'll be asked not to volunteer anymore. A lot of these kids don't have, we give photo permission forms at the beginning of each semester, and many parents actively sign that they don't want pictures of their kids anywhere. However, all this isn't to say though, if there is a special event and you do somehow happen to take a really great photo and you're like, wow, I really love this photo and would love to see it on DREAAM's Facebook page, you can send that to me or to Tracy. I would recommend sending it to me since I'm kind of the middle ground between him. Send it to me and I will get it. I'll send it over to Tracy. And if if the kids in it do have photo waivers, you might be able to see that on the DREAAM website, and you might be able to put it on your social media or whatever. So it's not to say for special events, I would say you can think about if you want to take pictures, but you can't share any until you have gotten that cleared by myself and Tracy. So just keep that in mind, that no pictures unless you have permission. I think this is food, so I'm going to take this just real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, well, I'm going to start walking us through we've just got a couple more slides left. Then we can go into questions and answers. But before we go into questions and answers, feel free to grab some food and then we'll go into questions and answers. But let's get through these last slides so we can get to that point. All right, dress code. Dress code, I mean, everybody here is wearing exactly what you would need to wear for volunteering with DREAAM. I tell people to think more business casual than casual, but that doesn't mean wear business casual stuff. It just means think about it as like a day of teaching, and wear what you would for a day of teaching. We do want to just emphasize that sort of thing. So you want it to be covering, you want it to not be ripped, you want it to just be presentable for the dreamers. Boundaries, going back into kind of this what we were just talking about, we do want to emphasize certain boundaries because again, we are trying to train these kids for their first days of kindergarten, and so we do want to put certain boundaries in place. So yeah, probably no sitting in laps for the kids, no like carrying the kids or something of that nature. And again, going back to like Latondra, her big thing that she always says is if a kid is running at you for full-on hugs, say, redirect and be kind of like, hey, how about a side hug? And doing sort of a side hug sort of thing instead. A full-on hug is not a problem, especially if they've run at you, but it is a chance for you to teach again about bodily autonomy and say, hey, before you hug me, can you ask me, may I hug you? And then to have that sort of conversation with them. So we do want to have some boundaries. Another big boundary is that we should never be in a space where we are the only adult in that space. There should always be DREAAM staff wherever you are, or at least in our volunteer. If there is a place though that you run into that there isn't like DREAAM staff that you really think there should be, and you keep finding yourself in a situation where you're by yourself with a kid, do reach out to me and let me know, because we just need to realign where we have our staff set up. That can happen, and we want to make sure that it doesn't. So if you do see that happen, let me know and we'll make sure that we've got staff in different areas. So yeah, just be aware of boundaries. Remember, we're trying, again, to bring kids for the first time out of just the house setting into a school setting, which is a very different setting. Names and name tags. We will have name tags. Please always wear your name tags. Those will be there on your first day. Please always have those with you when you come. It's really important we take time to learn names, especially of our kids and of the staff. We want to be able to really say their name every time. I'm terrible with names. I'm great with faces, but yeah.
And I think it started out, it changed.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 And I do believe Sarita's planning to do that. Yes. I know that that's how she does it for her like kindergarten, like during the school year itself. For anybody who's ever helps out with those sorts of things. So I do know that is the plan, and we are trying to have kids enrolled well ahead of time so that it doesn't change this time. So I believe so, but that's a great question that I will make sure we pass on to Sarita so we can get those names to you. Because yeah, it's really nice to use the names. We bond a lot quicker when we use each other's names. Incident reporting. Unfortunately, in anything with other people, there can be incidents and there can be accidents. So whether an accident happens, somebody accidentally pushes his friend over and his friend gets like a cut knee, or it's an incident, the guy meant to do it, throws the other kid down and guy gets a cut knee. You need to get an incident report. All staff should have incident reports, especially Sarita. And all you need to put in that is what you saw happen. You don't need to go any further than that. You're not probably going to be asked any more questions than that. You just need to put what you saw. And that's that. Beyond incident reports, there is on we do have a volunteer online portal that again I will be managing for you this summer, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you do want to go on there at any point, there is a form where you can write in just like something you observed in the day. You can put praise for a teacher there. You can put praise for a kid there, and that form is monitored, and we get to do some cool things. I've gotten some people have given a shout out to a couple of the teachers, and I've been able to give them like a nice little reward for that day, and we've been able to uplift some students that way too. That was one though that we also used, like one of our volunteers felt a teacher was not responding the best way you could for trauma care for some of our kids. And so we were able to do more trauma-based classes and stuff. And actually the whole staff grew because of that. So it's a great place where you can just kind of record what you're seeing. And it just says volunteer report. You just click that, type send, and I have it from there. It's all anonymous too. So up to you if you ever want to use that. It's another thing to do online, which can be a little tricky at times. All right, injuries. So should any injury happen, we need to immediately, of course, talk to staff. We need to get staff in on it as soon as possible. If it's a major / life-threatening sort of injury, we can't be the ones, or shouldn't be the ones, to call the ambulance, because we don't know where the child has healthcare coverage through, and that can be, calling the wrong ambulance can be enough to ruin a family for a long time. So our staff do know the right numbers to call for that. So do make sure to let staff know. Obviously, if you're in a situation where it's just you and the child is really hurt, make that call, but that should not be the situation. There should always be staff nearby, and they should immediately be notified on what's happened with the child. For minor injuries, there are first aid kits in all of the classrooms that our teachers will have. You won't have to apply the bandage or anything yourself. Our teachers will do that, but just again, let the teacher know, hey, they have a paper cut, and so they can do that. And then you will have to, for either of those, you will have to fill out a incident report, because those are both incidents. But again, that's just saying what you saw. So if it's a paper cut, you just saw them get cut on paper. That's all we need from you in those cases. Mandatory reporting. So by being a volunteer at DREAAM, you actually are not mandatory reporters. so don't listen to this up here. But do know that it is encouraged that if you hear something that concerns you from one of the kids, that if you think they're being abused in some way, neglected in some way, um, that you can talk to staff about that and let staff know who you heard it from and just what you heard. You won't have to fill out any forms or anything for that, but staff will be the ones who take care of it from there, because staff are mandatory reporters, so they do have to figure that out once they've heard it from you. However, our role is not to be the ones to report that to any higher escalation than staff. We just need to let them know if we're a little concerned about what we heard. Because again, staff know these kids a lot better than we do. They have that relationship, so they know more about what's going on. So keep your ears open, and you can decide. You can decide what to report. But if you do really feel like you're concerned about one of the kids, please speak up, and let staff know. Let staff know so they can make the right decisions from there. And some of our volunteers, I know at First UMC, we had some volunteers who are mandatory reporters because of their other jobs. And if you are due to your other job, then yeah, you need to report it no matter what. But if you're not already, then you don't need to worry about it. Okay, further trainings. We will have further trainings on social and emotional learning. And there will be another training on evidence-based practices, which is regarding trauma care. These trainings will likely be there will be both an in-person and online sort of thing. And they will be more optional, especially for this summer class. However, if you're thinking about sticking with DREAAM going into, say, the fall, they are not optional in the fall. We are working on a curriculum that everybody will have to have certain trainings under their belt so that they know how to handle certain incidents with our kids. So yeah, I do have a date up there for June 13th. That one already happened and it went well. There's a potential one. It would be the second week of your programming at Kindergarten Jumpstart Program, but I need to line up things still with my doctoral student on that. So I'll let you know as we get closer to that date if we end up having that training in person. Timecounts.org and Google Forms. All that you need to know about this is that your schedules will be on time counts, but they will be 100% managed by me. So you will get an email or some sort of notification from time counts just to say when you're working. That's all you will know from timecounts.org probably, because I will be managing everything else. But the Google Forms, on the other hand, these are actually important. Every time you will arrive here at Faith UMC, I think you probably are going to come in the door over there. Whenever you come in, there will be a laptop set up with a Google Form just saying for name and time in. Please do put your time in, and then on your way out, put your time out as well. We trust you, but we need that for grant funding. We need to know these certain metrics so that we can say exactly how long we've had certain volunteers here for different things. So again, please be on the lookout for the laptop that should be set up with Google Forms on it, and you can just sign in, sign out every day you come, and that'll be good. If there is a day that comes that you are not able to make it, you're not feeling well, and something else is happening, you just reach out to me, and I will make sure that that's reflected to the teacher side of things. So don't worry if you do have to miss a day. Just let me know, and we'll take care of it from there. So that's basically everything I have to go over with you today for orientation. Really, with everything we've covered today, you should be pretty ready for that first day, because now you kind of need to be actually in the situations with Sarita and learning in the classroom. But do know I am always available for any questions at any time and any clarifications as well as your time goes on. Before we go into